Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk, our favorite Miss Darby Mills. We were just talking about hockey there a little bit. Her Canucks are not in this year. So who are you cheering for?
The Canucks.
Fair enough. I have a hard time watching hockey. I ran a minor hockey association for 16 years. I find that
Wow.
the game's fast. It's very fast. The stars get to shine, but I find some of the penalties that get called are the physicality's kind of been taken out of the game. That's just my humble 2 cents, but
I've watched hockey all my life too, and I know I've said this many times before. My dad was drafted by the Red Wings, the original 7. He did get down there and train down there for a summer, but unfortunately, because he played in oh shoot, I've stopped telling the story now that he's gone. But anyway, Ottawa Generals is where he was based until they took him up, but he crashed. They didn't have helmets, and he got tripped and went headfirst into the boards and concussion. And the doctor said, "Nope, no more playing hockey." So who knows where I would have been had that actually happened, right?
I do have a legitimate Canucks reference. So, gentleman number 15, Matthew Highmore, Dartmouth boy.
Yes.
I actually, the first tryout that I ever did in minor hockey was Matthew's second year of Pee Wee. And you go and you check him out. He's a great story. He didn't get anything handed to him. He just kept working, and he's had a really nice career. And his father, Dave, is a good buddy of mine, and he's just a great kid. He's one of those ones that when you meet him, he's a good kid. So there you go. You get a little bit of hockey here tonight, folks, too. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So a question, there was a meme that came up. I was thinking about this today, about asking you this, because often people, you're where you kind of fit in the Canadian, history of music and stuff. And people will get compared to you. And other people get compared to other people. So Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffat, who used to play drums for Michael Jackson, had a quote that basically said, "I'm sick of comparisons. I'm sick of people comparing people to each other. Why can't we just all be our own people? Everybody's unique. Everybody's different. We all bring something to the party." That's a paraphrase. I was thinking about asking you this today. I thought, you know what would Darby say to that? What's your thoughts on that?
Me personally being compared, or in
just
general?
The comparison game that happens in music.
There's worse things, they could say you're shitty.
Fair enough.
You know what? Sometimes people need a label, and okay. I guess the problem is if you're labeled with a label that you don't feel is correct, right? But yeah, really, it's like, yeah, I sound like them, or they sound like me. Yeah, that's another one that I've just had to give up on.
Yeah,
because
fair.
You know what? Good. You sound like me. Awesome. Enjoy the job. But it's just go out and have fun. Just go out and do what it is you're there to do. And fun is part of it, but it's to deliver a show that people remember 40 years later and say, I was at that show.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because when we were setting this up, when you and I were kind of having a bit of a conversation about different things, and we get on the topic of, looking like a band, and, not looking like somebody that comes out of the audience that was just eating chicken wings and this, and you made the comment to me that that's very important for you to, as part of your presentation, to look like you're doing something for the people. So I've seen some pictures as recently, as say 4 years ago, and you're dressing it up. It looks great. How much of your image back in the day was yours versus what was sort of forced upon you as a performer by maybe the label, management, whatever?
That's basically my costumes, if you want to call them that, were all mine. That's one of the only things that I had pretty much complete control on. And I've looked back at some old stuff of late and gone, what was I thinking? But then again, I'm sure there's a lot of that going on. If you can go back to the 80s and look at what you were
I was gonna
wearing.
say I call that 1987 myself personally, but
Okay, yeah. So 1920, you're in the bars hanging every night, and it was big hair and big boobs and TNA and male strippers, female strippers. I mean, life was very different for me back then than it is right now. So, what was your question again?
I was just wondering how much, and you answered it. I mean, it was basically it was your image, because I had always kind of wondered, you always hear stories about record companies saying this is the way it's going to be, or manager saying this is the way it's going to be, and people do it, and then they regret it years later. And you had a distinctive image. Obviously, you had the huge hair and the big voice, and I was just kind of wondering if that was forced upon you, or if that was your thing, and you answered it.
No, the one piece Dan skins and the T-bar underwear on top. Madonna was challenging all us women to go outside the box big time. So, yeah, thank goodness I was 20 and 21 when I was doing that stuff. So it's somewhat forgivable. I mean, again, I've got girlfriends. If you hear me singing, or if you see me dressed inappropriately, you make sure you let me know. So I'm trying to come up with a new look for the 60s era of my career, and it will be I'm thinking a little bit more respectful of age, and although I still trying to, it's hard. How do you be respectful to age and still be a rocker without looking like a parody of yourself, right? It's
fair, but I still think the Darby Mills that I think I would hang out with. You'd sit there and you'd laugh, but you'd shoot a whiskey and give me a throat punch if I said something stupid. I mean, I that's the one vibe that I got from you. You call it as you see it. You don't hold back, and I think that's great. I want to talk about this new project. Well, it's not new, I guess, new to us, but not necessarily new to you. You referenced it in the first segment. You're very proud of it. Press play. Tell us about this. You referenced the players, and you said it's more for the kind of the wine circuit or whatnot. But talk about it, because it sounds very interesting, and you said it's something that you get to go back to that you maybe hadn't been at for 40 years.
Pre-Headpin's vocal style, that is. Yeah, it's 50s, 60s, and 70s covers. We're not reinventing the wheel, but we are. I call it in the promo, I call it the wonder years, back when nothing mattered really. It was, you were free. That saying your parents always say to you, wait, those are you're in the good years, or whatever the saying is. And it's kind of like going back to those. I was still a kid and I was listening to the songs my brothers and sisters were playing on their 45s or the AM radio, because that's all we had in Vernon. And but just some real pure writing back then. There's nothing crazy wild going on, although some of the tunes, as these players that are with me in this project are very, very skilled players, and we'll finish one of the tunes and the drummer will say, I never get to play this stuff. This is so cool. So again, when the band is calling you up saying, hey, when are we going to rehearse again? They're as excited as you are, and I am truly excited about my retirement plan, retirement fund. It's just so cool, and we're starting to get some decent shows. We'll be playing the outdoor stadium in I just confirmed before we got on here, in Kamloops in June, and yeah, things are going to be really, really good for this band, for the people that want to go back there. And I think that right now there's a lot of people that would be happy just to go back there, even if it's for an evening, not just to rock, but go back to to the beginning when rock was being born in a far purer sense than than what it is today.
Right.
I don't know. I'm babbling. Tell me to stop anytime.
No, and because as you're saying this, I mean, one of the bands that we put together that came out of Barstools, this band Side Hustle, it was the songs that, I mean, I graduated from high school in 1987, and a lot of the tunes that we do were like, early 80s, and not a lot of bands can do them because you need a certain vocal range and you need people to be able to sing. And the reaction that we get is, wow, these are songs that we'd love to hear that nobody's done. I'm assuming that you're kind of getting that same reaction. You're taking
Definitely.
people back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's with the exception that this is 50s, 60s, and 70s. There's no 80s. We don't do an 80s tune in it. And the other thing that's blown me away, I intended when we got up to 40 songs, that we would start the night, and the whole night we're doing 2 sets, or it would be a 2-hour show. And I was planning to do it by date when they were originally recorded. And unfortunately, too many of the songs sounded somewhat similar. Right. We do Stormy and Spooky, which they don't sound the same, but the same kind of vibe. Yep. With those tunes. Julie London, Cry Me a River, Lulu, To Serve With Love. So way back, To Serve With Love, Cry Me a River, and Headpins. Like there's no this there. It's big. It's a big it's a big departure. But especially the crowd my age and over, because we're playing the venues where those people go, they have not heard those songs. They haven't. They're a lifetime ago songs. So again, yeah, it's such a blast. And every show we do, I just have to say, and I say this every show, I'm sorry I'm smiling so much, but you just can't play these tunes and not smile. And it's the truth. It's just 3-part harmonies. And it's.
Okay, so I'm going to hit you with one right here. So you mentioned a few tunes. So if I was to say, I was put you on the spot and say, Darby, of that set list, what is your favorite tune to perform?
I just happen to have it right here.
Wow. It's like we reversed this.
You know what? We just added for the last show, Saturday in the Park by Chicago, and One Fine Morning by Lighthouse. And both of those as the newer tunes. We learned them 2 days before we did our last show. So all the rest of the songs have been kind of hanging around for a couple of years now. And so these are brand new, and maybe that's why. But it is so cool playing those tunes. We don't have horns. We don't have any of the stuff that's so well known for, but like, again, these players are just so brilliant that we don't have to have them. The songs just come off just like, so there you go.
Now, and obviously you're getting people that are coming out to the shows. Are you having a chance to interact with the people that are there? Is it too hustle bustle?
Well, for press play, no, because it's kind of COVID still, and everybody's still kind of so we keep our distance somewhat, and we only take a 15-minute break in between the sets,
right?
Because we just want to be back up on stage playing, and and you can tell when the audience is grooving, and it's not a dance band. We're not sold as a dance band. We're sold as it's. I had to call it the review to get a page on Facebook because I couldn't get press play, right? So, and then I thought, well, that's perfect, because it is a review, and press play is not something to do with the press and newspapers or radio. It's what you do when you listen to a song from that era. You right. Press play on the tape deck, right? So that's where the name comes from. So, but with the project, definitely, we're right after the show, we're out at the merch booth and communicating, and of course trying to make some money so we can pay for the gas. No, just kidding, but not kidding.
No, yeah, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I know you're not. I mean, out here it's really funny. So the big talk is potholes, and we have to put a safety sticker on our vehicle, and it says, "Isn't it funny that the province mandates that we pay for a sticker to drive on roads that cars aren't fit to drive on?" And it's just the most crazy thing. But then, everything's gone up: gas, electricity, and people don't understand the last 2 years, for musicians especially. When you shut something down, it's very tough to, our cycle can be a year or more before it comes back, right?
Yeah, it's been a tough go for just about. I'll relay a story. My old manager manages James Taylor now, and he spoke with my husband just as the pandemic started, and he said that they had just started or were days away from starting in Vegas on his world tour, and they shut down like 100 some odd dates or whatever the number is. And I'm like, oh, that's too bad, whatever. And he said, no, but they've lost the money that they've put out for all these vehicles, all these rentals, all this stuff that they had to have together. They've got all these venues and all these tickets now. They got to, it just turned into a shit show for them, right? And also, when the states started opening up, it was the athletic teams that had first right of refusal, and their schedules had to be squished in. So there were no vacancy, no holes. So all these people were out of work and not missing the thousands of dollars that I would make, but hundreds of thousands of dollars that are no longer on the books, right? So I hate to be so bold, but to say even the big guys took a hit on this one. So it's like, okay, well, fair is fair sometimes, but he's back out on the road now. So I'm sure he'll be making back his money. But it's been, yeah, like I couldn't never have imagined this being the world today, and war. Like seriously.
And you're right. And I mean, and that's another thing. But the thing, I guess, that kind of was always in this whole thing that kind of perplexed me is the thing that seemed to get people through this the most, which was music, was always the thing that was the last to come back, right? And yeah. I talked about, so, we had over here, our premier was like, oh, shut the bars down. As soon as everything opened up, big photo op, he has a hamburger on the patio of a bar, and hey, we're all super excited, but we were the last to come back. And then finally, everything's opened up for a month, and there's all this money that they're going to give the arts and entertainment sector, which, where were you guys 18 months ago when this was going on? It was just bizarre to me.
Well, and you guys were still running. I was crying on some of your posts about shows you were doing. It was like, I've been locked out for a year already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have to be in, yeah, you have to be on the ladder to get government money. There's a system, and yeah. It ain't gonna happen.
I'll be honest, they've gotten enough of my time and energy. I shan't give them any more. I guess I'm gonna wrap with this. So, you have the two projects. You get the Darby Mills project, which you obviously want to get some stuff going, and it's a little harder for you to rehearse right now and what have you. You have press play. How are you going to, I guess, manage your schedule? Have you thought that out? Is there going to be X amount of time to one, X amount of time to another, or are you just going to kind of go with what is out there making the money?
Well, the project gigs are usually booked 3-4 months in advance, if not a year in advance, because those are, hopefully we'll be able to get back into the fairs and festivals, which they book well enough in advance that you get that in your calendar and you mark it down, and you get everybody's approval. Everybody free on this date or these 3 dates? Can we leave this week? And so you get that. And that's why it's so important to get a deposit, because if places are canceling you a month out because tickets aren't selling or something, we won't get into that end of the business, especially if you have to pay for flights that are $8,000 to get to Nova Scotia or Halifax, and then anyway, and one other thing I want to talk to or mention, and I think I might have done on the first segment, is that I'm still making the same, I'm still making the same money basically, even as a whole, with a minute amount of shows compared to the 80s when you would work 6 days a week, right? And now for an act of my, not caliber, but my existence, where I sit on the pie chart of you suckness, right? Classic rock acts of my genre or era, I guess is a better way to say it, are very limited with what they can play unless they want to do shows like go back into the bars to keep the shows rolling. And that's something that you do when you have an anchor date, which pays good money, but unfortunately that covers your gas, the rental vehicle, and your flights. And then you have to pay your guys. Then you have to pay the band and hopefully yourself in the big scheme of things. So you add another show and maybe you'll go into a bar or something, right? But if that's, I'm kind of going all over.
You know what you're doing? You're giving everybody that watches our show a very a lesson in economics of music right here, because a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, so when somebody says, "Hey, do the show for exposure," exposure doesn't pay the gas. It doesn't pay the $8,000 flights, right?
Yes.
And you know,
if they don't know who I am after 46 years in this business, then exposure ain't going to do anything for them. You know, I'm not trying to break a new crowd, and I know that's the wrong thing to say. I'm just trying to get in front of the crowd that hasn't been in my presence or vice versa for the last 7 years. I don't think 7 years ago I was out your way. So yeah, it's the music business, and it's not very kind. And basically, when you get a call 9 times out of 10, okay, 6 times out of 10, it's, you know what, we've been down for 2 years, and we've had to pay to get everything back up and running. So can you come in for like a third your price? Like, who's asking that of anybody right now, other
that's right.
than promoters asking bands to take a cut? Well, it's like, guess what? We're in the exact same boat that you're in. And we've had no income either. And we got to pay more to travel. We got to pay more to do everything. We got to pay more to eat. But you want us to take a cut because you're having a hard time.
Interesting, isn't it? And a friend of mine puts it a similar way, but different. They're not paying for that show. They're paying for the 45 years of Darby Mill's time to learn her craft to get where she is. That's what you're paying for. So,
Yeah.
This
that's
whole
reality, though. The music business
they
isn't
pay a
in
lawyer
reality.
they would pay a lawyer that was maybe a crappy lawyer his rate, because that's what his rate was. But when it comes to musicians, not that way. I'll tell you a really, really quick story that somebody told me a couple of weeks ago. He was playing a bar in downtown Halifax, and he overheard the manager basically saying, "Doesn't matter what we're going to pay the bands because the people are going to come anyway." And I'm like, after
Yeah.
2 years of supporting this industry, for somebody in the industry to say that,
Yeah.
very frustrating.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And the sad thing is, you want to support the young and those coming up, but a lot of them will go in and take that gig that you fought and stood up for and said, this is what you got to pay, you want us in. And the manager will have the same attitude as what you've just mentioned. It was like, doesn't matter, we'll bring in a crowd, so I'm going to get a $200 band instead of paying you your, it gives them publicity, it gives them exposure. And it's like, okay, well, I guess the young need to get experience somehow. But when you're screwing with people's livelihoods and you won't pay them, I mean, I get it, they need to make money too, but it's seriously, then go back to charging 1980s prices for your beer and your booze,
Right.
And we'll make the same money.
Right. You made me sound like the smartest man on the internet, because I've been saying that for almost 2 years. And when Sean says that, I get eye rolls, but you nailed it. Darby's going to do that show for 200. Well, Sean will go in for 150. Nothing drives me more bananas, because it doesn't help anybody.
No.
But all it does is it creates a backslide, and we're trying to get it to at least where it was, and hopefully it better, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you want quality or quantity. So, I mean, it is, unfortunately, it's not up to the bands, and those bands that are lifers and have put, make sure every show they do is a quality show. At least that's what my attempt is. That's worth money. And so you have to be brave enough and say no to, right?
Amen,
So,
sister. I want to thank you for doing this. It was long overdue, but you and I touched on it. Say hi to your husband. He and I have been emailing back and forth, and we'll keep trying to figure out a way to get you out here, because a
awesome.
lot of people want to see you. Be well. I'm looking forward to seeing some more video of both projects. And hey, keep smiling.
You too, buddy. Take care, and thanks for connecting. And yeah, I still want to get out there and say hello and get a chance to take in the East Coast again. It's been a long time, and it's definitely time.
When you get down here, we'll get you out for a donair.
Yes, I'm in. All right.
Peace.